got an interesting game for you here. These are the last two teams in the event. Ontario's curling out of the York Curling Club. Their skip is Laurie Shields, third Lisa Rolfe, second Samantha Fuller, and their lead is Nadine Simpson. They won their first game 6-3 over New Brunswick. The Yukons curling out of the Whitehorse Curling Club. Their skip is Peggy Doros, third Lainey Klassen, second Candice Braga, and lead Inga Brown. And they lost their first game to Quebec 3-7. As we get started here in the first end, Ontario's got the hammer and is throwing the yellow stones. Yukon playing the red. Ontario's just going to go ahead and throw a rock into the rings here as we get underway.
Yeah, it looks like game on with the first rock going, or second rock right in the rings. Got an open hit.
We've seen a lot of first end blanks here, certainly. We've had our fair share of those, so would not be uncommon or surprised to see that at all in the first here.
The teams will take a little time to feel each other out and understand what the ice is doing on sheet A.
It's been great ice here all week so far. We're still in the early stages, but the ice is fantastic here in the Leduc Curling Club. We've seen about 3.5 feet of curl to 4 on most of the draws, so it's curling really nicely. And haven't really seen anything strange on the ice, no patches or running flat spots, anything like that. So it's all been pretty consistent. So first end though, always, teams are just figuring out the ice here.
Yeah, Denver, I do curl here as well, and all year the ice has been in fantastic shape for us. It's very readable, it's predictable. The weight is consistent from sheet to sheet, and speaking with some of the teams earlier today, they're all appreciating that as well.
Yeah, certainly, and another thing that's been noted, we've had a few measurements, of course, here, and the rings have been very true, so very handy for measurements there, especially as they're using the lasers for this event. So very easy to get it in the pinhole there and get accurate measurements, which has been really nice.
Yeah, that last rock, or the measure for last rock, there's a lot riding on that, and we saw the teams throw some pretty good stones for that measure, and you know, it does give them last rock for the first end, but it also could come into play later in the week as they look at tiebreakers and cumulative scores on that measure. So it's quite important for them.
Certainly, it's the top 8 move on here into our double knockout, so wanting to get as a record as you possibly can. So we get our first look here at Samantha Fuller, the second for Team Ontario here, throwing our first stone of the game. Looks like she's just going for a hit here. Looks like it might be over curling a bit here, but good weight choice.
They're playing with one part of the sheet so far. Looks like game on with 2 rocks in play, one from each team. Ontario having the hammer, of course, they'd be more prone to mixing it up here in the first end.
Yeah, certainly. It's interesting. As we said earlier, you often get a lot of blanks here in the first end, but there are a couple stones in play. There's no guards, which is interesting. We've seen a lot of guarding, especially on the women's games the last couple ends. Our last game between Saskatchewan and Manitoba, lots of guards out there, and in fact, because of the lots of guards in the last game, Saskatchewan was able to pick up 5 in the first end after they split in a few guards. So we've seen a lot of that, but this first end here has been fairly clean. Yukon is sitting 2 though, as Samantha throws her second rock of the end.
Yeah, and this is a move to offense. She's looking to freeze, I believe, down in the corner with those 2 rocks on the outside 12. She's got a bit of a cradle they can draw into there. Sweeper's going to earn the point here if they can get it there.
This comes up a little light though there, unfortunately, so not in the paint, and actually does provide a bit of cover for those 2 Yukon stones. So Yukon has a chance here to get one on the other side of the house and hope to force Ontario just to a single point here, and it's looking pretty good for them in that regard right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a forced situation at this point. This one looks like it's a little challenging to get it to the rings too. You would not want this rock out front or the steel's on. Or 2 comes into play for Ontario if they can wrap one around that.
That one also comes up a little bit short of the rings, only a little deeper than the last one that was just thrown. So Ontario will have a second chance here. They do have their own guard there, so if they do manage to get it in, they've got everything set up and they'll have a chance to potentially get 2. Lisa Rolfe in her first here in the first end.
Looks good coming over the hog. Hog line in, they're looking for a fair amount of movement on this rock. And it's going there. They're sitting really nice.
Yeah, that's a great shot there by Ontario. They are frozen and they are the shot stones, so really nice shot there. Good team effort, good weight judge.
That rock sliding behind the tee does present a couple of options for Yukon as they're debating whether to freeze down to that or go around that center line guard. It looks like the freeze is on.
Yep, there's certainly lots of room to get around there. That guard is off to the side there, so definitely can follow the path that Ontario just took and get another one in there for themselves. The sweepers come off it here as it just glides to a stop and
a little bounce.
Rubs off, so just a touch heavy on that one. The line looked pretty close, but a little warm there. And
from the overhead camera, that's tough to call. But from my view, for as accurate as my eyes are, I would say that's yellow stone for Ontario. So
yeah, I think so. The teams have had a look at it here, but I think it is Ontario at the moment. That's the yellow stone there.
They're looking to duplicate the last effort.
So it looks like it's
trying to draw another one in there.
Running a little warmer. The sweepers aren't on it like they are last time, but certainly could come down here for them.
That's going to slide right through the port.
Yeah, a little unfortunate there. The line was sort of caught between because of the little bit of extra weight, so a bit unfortunate there.
Well, it's interesting how the strategy can change as the rocks are played in the end. You know, it started out, we were talking about a blank end being pretty common in the first end, and it's not the case now. It's game on, and they're focused on trying to either limit or steal here. So
yeah, how quickly it can change. I mean, there's so few rocks in play, and all of a sudden, and early on in the end, Ontario missed a hit. Let Yukon get a second counter in there, and ever since then, there's been a lot of stones in play. A few traded hits, but lots of draws now as we get into the latter half of the end. And it is the first skip stone for Peggy Doros of Yukon. She settles in here and gets ready to throw.
Peggy's ignoring the side of the house, and she's going around that center line guard.
You know, they may think they are shot stone back there. It is really tough to tell. The teams have a better angle on it than we do, so they may not want to freeze, but this one looks a little warm. It's curling around nicely. Let's see where it stops here.
It's coming in a little hot.
And that's not quite out of play, but at the moment isn't really in the question for shot stone.
Let's see what Laura Shields wants to do. She can freeze the corner, or she can beat Yukon around that guard. I think that's the call.
Certainly, and it really depends on if they think they're shot rock there as well. If they do, I really like going under this guard here. It really sets up a good chance for 2.
Yeah, Denver, I know Laurie had indicated earlier on as she looked over the rocks that she felt it was yellow. So that's driving this decision here. And it's kind of a race to the 4 foot at this point to see who can get top of the tee line in the 4 foot first now.
Certainly, and the path down the center there is really nice. We haven't seen a ton of rocks down there, but we did just have one there, although it was a little bit heavy, but the path is really nice. We saw it finish up nicely. It actually overburied, even though it was heavy, it overburied around the center guard that they were trying to wrap around, and so Ontario here taking a little bit more ice, mindful of that, so good call, I think, on the ice there, as they'll have, ideally, less weight than the last one, so.
Sweepers are cognizant of the weight, but I noticed a switch too, and who's close to the rock, trying to direct it. And
sneaks by the guard there, and looks like it's got less weight than the last as it settles down just behind the tee line there. A little bit overburied, but pretty nice attempt there. First draw of the game for the skipper, so pretty close on the weight.
that puts the pressure on Yukon to get the freeze. I'm not certain that they can pick it from the outside from this angle. I think there's an inch or two showing, but
no, you can't see too much of it, so that'd be a tricky shot.
It's a dangerous play if yellow is shot a second shot, but it looks like they're going for a tap here. So.
May end up leaving Ontario another draw here. I mean, they just came down that path if they do have to throw that again. And I mean, you always like to get your draw weight under you in the first end if you can. So we'll see what Yukon has to say about it first. If they can remove this stone here, and they won't be playing too much weight, so if they can get around there, it's pretty likely they could stick their shooter at least for second shot.
With the rock behind the tee, you know, Peggy doesn't have to remove the rock if she can get to the inside. You know, we haven't seen this turned in this end yet, so we'll see how much movement there is from the hog line in.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a guess in the first end, but I like the weight choice they've chosen here. They haven't, they're not playing anything big, which I think is smart. You don't know the path too well, so you don't want to throw a ton at it and have it hang out wide on you.
The sweepers are hard on it. It is moving. It is moving. It's on the guard.
Taps the guard. Let's see where it ends up here. Does tap it to just the tee line there, so it is shot stone, but it's a shot for 2 for sure, and maybe 3 if we'll have to see where those, between the red and the yellow, which one is a third shot at that point, but it is for sure a nose hit for 2 and potentially 3. You may see the lasers on it. And
certainly a big shot for the first end. It sets the tone for the game.
absolutely, and certainly not a blank in this one. Lots of rocks in play there, and last rock of the first end here for Ontario. Laurie Shields, her last stone. They're calling it to be a bit down, so, but it does look to be a bit wide, so it's got to come up.
I think they'll get nice finish coming into the house. She's got it on the beam.
As it moves over there, nice shot. So it's 2 for sure. And they're just looking at the 2 towards the back of the 12 there between the red and the yellow to determine whether or not it will be 3, and they're kicking them away.
The red off, so the decision's made. We'll wait for the official score, so to let us know what the decision was, what the agreement was.
But at least 2 for Ontario, so a good start for them.
Getting that 2 or 3 in the first end changes your strategy. We see Laurie Shields going straight into the house on this one. No need to throw up guards or centerline guards. You've got a pretty good lead. You want to bring the game right to the forefoot now.
Yeah, no question about it. You want to put some rocks in play and have them above the tee line and be able to control the game. And it is 3 now confirmed, so Ontario 3 in the first end. So great start for them as they head into the second, but a lot of chances for Yukon as it's only the second end. A lot of chances for Yukon to get themselves back in it.
Ontario does pull that one into the 12-foot. Some good sweeping effort by Lisa Rolfe and Samantha Fuller. Well, there's a theory that if you're ever going to give up three in one end, do it in the first end. You've got
That's right.
7 ends to recover.
Any big ends, you want to get those out of your system as soon as possible, and it, you know, it's the first end, and you know there's a lot of variables, so we'll see if UConn can get their feet back under them here, and lots of time to get themselves back into this game. A deuce or higher would be great for them and keep them competitive.
Looks like both teams had elected to go into the house on their first rocks. I can understand Ontario, UConn is trying to bring the game into the house as well, and perhaps get into a freeze game to try and get their extra second point.
Yeah, you know, we saw some nice draws from UConn last end, so perhaps if they think they can make those again and freeze in at some point, they'll be able to do it. Ontario sitting 2 counters just at the top of the 12-foot on each side of the center line respectively, and
call is for a corner guard now.
Oh, a little bit of a slip on the delivery, but weight looks okay actually. It might be a bit down though. We'll see. We'll have to where this ends up.
Sometimes the crosswind catches you.
Yeah, that's right. You know, the weight actually looks not too bad here. Maybe the line that was a bit thrown off by that, but if the line had been close, the weight was really nice for a corner guard there, but finishes just off the center line.
It's a very usable rock when you consider its placement. It's close to the rings. They'll be able to tap that up if they elect to do that. There's lots of good that can come out of that rock yet.
Certainly, and you know, it cannot be removed by Ontario, at least not on this rock because of the 5-rock rule, and so that's safe for now. We'll see how long that guard may or may not last, but for now anything can't be done about it. Says Ontario. Looks like they might be bringing another one in here. Slips by their first yellow there as it heads to the back of the rings.
We can see Peggy's confidence as a skip. She's leaving that rock in the back 12. There was no effort to sweep it out as she sees, you know, having last rock, that one can act as backing for their next shot here.
Yep, absolutely, and that's a bit of a veteran call there for sure. You know, a lot of teams look at rocks like that. They could think, oh, we can easily tap it out or things like that, but you know, it's that far back in the house, it probably won't end up hurting you, and you can always use it for something after as well.
Got a nice effort coming in here. A nice curl into the 4-foot and into the 8.
Yeah, nice weight there. It's in a pretty good position for them there, and
it's exciting for us in Leduc to host this this event. It's nice to see the club level championship and the high degree of talent that comes with that. These are the best curlers out of their respective provinces, and they're putting on a real nice show for the fans. And Leduc is very happy and proud to be hosting this.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of talent in this field, and you know, the difference between them and some of the other curlers is simply some of them can't take the time, you know, off work and things like that to commit to curling, but they always put on a very impressive show at this level. It's always a pleasure to watch and to cast for. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of between the men's and the ladies field here. There's been past Slam competitors and past Briar and Scotty's competitors, and there's even some teams that have only been you know, curling together, and some of the members only been playing for a couple of years. So really really neat to see the sort of the difference between all of the teams. It's always exciting to watch.
This rock's coming in. It's going to move that yellow a little bit, which could work out well for them. They open up some space in there.
Yeah, it changes the angles around a little bit, and it definitely leaves them room to work with, and could be a potential pocket in there for them to draw into later as well, depending on where these next couple rocks end up. So it's always nice to make your last draw of the end with backing.
Yeah, I think the advantage is certainly for UConn having those rocks all behind the tee line. It's very important for them.
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff to catch on, and the thing is too, if they get some rocks in a good spot, it's hard for for Ontario to remove them without jamming on a lot of the rocks. So definitely good to have a few things in play for UConn here. They want to have really as many rocks as possible. As the first rock here from Lisa Rolfe comes in and just punches the red stone out of play.
So the call is the hit and roll behind the cover on the right side of the sheet. There was another option to play a half stone hit and roll over to the left behind the guard, and the double would have come into play and you'd be laying 2. So the decision is that we want to get in that 4 foot. We want to be high to the button.
Certainly, and when you're down a few points, you want to have something in a nice little sort of secure pocket. If you can have a stone in there for sure, that's always an advantage. That one just gets by the guard as it bumps there, and weight choice was close, but over curled a little bit there, and so we're, I believe their third shot there, and
Ontario laying first and second at this point in time. Laurie's decided to throw the guard out front.
A lot of usable rocks there for the UConn, though. If they're able to move a couple of those yellows back, they could find themselves sitting a few.
They're looking to bounce off the guard, I think, to cover the hole.
Gets a little bit of movement and still should be able to fit one in there.
They're finishing nice coming in on the out turn draw. I think there's plenty of room to come into that and draw the pot here.
Yeah, certainly. Looks to be the call as well here as they some team discussion about it here. Electing instead to get rid of the guard there. Perhaps hoping to catch one of the yellow stones in the house as a process. That'd be a nice bonus for them.
You certainly want to leave yourself with more than one option as you come into Skips Rocks with the hammer. I think that's the intent here. They're going to have a red out front that, if need be, they can run it in.
Just through those
So
two yellow
close.
there. Real close to catching one of them and leaving themselves even more options. But having 2 reds up front, they'll be able to make that sort of shot again, or even a tap up to get something into the 4 foot area for scoring. So still options, and you might be able to even get there with an in-turn draw as well. So.
It's a game of inches, and that last shot, if she hits that rock just a little farther on the left side, just a fraction of an inch, it had the potential to come in and double those yellows.
Yes,
Perhaps
absolutely.
not moving right out, but could have had a situation where you'd have 2 reds. That's how close the game is. It's an 1/8 of an inch off of being perfect.
That's right. It opens up a lot of options. If you're sliver on either side on that one, you could absolutely see a whole different scenario in the house, and it's such a close game. Laurie Shields here, and her first.
Taking her time, going through her pre-throw regime.
And that is so important, especially at an event like this. You want to make sure you're centered and grounded and ready to throw, especially on She Day here, which is our featured game. And a lot of these players aren't used to the mics and the cameras and all of that being out on the ice, and so takes some adjusting to. And so making sure you have as normal of a routine as possible is really key. Curling is really a mental game as well, so really want to make sure you're on top of that.
That's a very nice draw.
Yeah, excellent.
Again, we're behind the button, so it's leaving a little bit of an out for UConn to come down and freeze on that. I think that's the call. That's what we're looking to accomplish here.
Indeed, that's I'd say that's the best shot for sure. You can get on there and you can be the shot stone, and it would be pretty difficult to remove unless you have quite a bit of separation. So if the weight's close here, would certainly guarantee UConn probably at least the point.
See some good communication with the sweepers too. They need to understand the call and what the finish, what the result is that they're looking for. Are they looking for a freeze or a tap? It's very important for them to understand the call right through to the tee line.
Certainly, and it's a very close distinction between even just the tap and the dead freeze. So communication so key. This one's diving over really hard here at the end. And fortunately, just bumps on the guard, and you know they're really starting to finish in towards the center as we move through this game here. It's they were a little less so in the first end, but they're really hooking towards center now, and it's unfortunate there for the Yukon as that looked had a quite nice weight coming down.
The rock looked good coming in, but as the pebble wears down after the first end, you're getting into the second, and a few rocks down that path, the ice tends to pick up a little more curl.
Yes, and quite a few rocks down that path, just even in the last 4 or 5 shots, mostly all draws down there, so something to keep an eye on as we move forward here.
See, Laurie's taking ice out in the 12-foot now. They're extending that, taking a little more ice on every shot.
Yes, perhaps learning from the shot before them, and that's often something you see here. You get to sort of figure out what the maximum curl is, and weight looks pretty good on this one.
Call was for top 12. I think this shot is more about the line than it is the final position of the rock, but it's she's right on her call.
Yes, a nice shot there by Ontario to get themselves in a good position. They've got a lot of counters in there. In fact, there's 7 yellow stones that are in the rings this end. So
currently counting 3 yellow. 3 Ontario stones, and we're going to see Peggy draw on the right side, trying to limit the damage. I think if she can get into the 4-foot, she can cut it down to 1 and stay in the game.
Yeah, no way to get shot stone here, but you can certainly get in the especially if the curl is even close to what we're seeing on the other side, then they can absolutely get in there, and they've got some backing, so even if they're a little warm, they should be able to limit the damage here, and certainly you can get second shot. Just taking a moment to consider the ice here and be sure of the call.
Early in the game, you're jogging your memory back to your practice rocks and wondering how the ice reacted at that time, because they certainly would have played from the outside in on their practice rocks too to get that line.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been a little time since then, but the path, you should have at least a good idea of the path. The weight here looks pretty close. This will be about the line, I think, as the sweepers are on it here. Looks fairly close here.
Looks pretty close. She's
about the weight now. The line's there.
Can they get it there?
As it comes in. That's quite close, but I think it's just 1 yellow as they have a look here. Excellent sweeping there by Yukon to bring it in there. It's a close one, and not quite sure what they've decided here is the final verdict, but 1 yellow for sure, and very nice draw there by Yukon to limit the damage on them.
Yeah, certainly mission accomplished. You know, that was the best outcome you could hope for. We'll
Yes.
wait for the official score to show the 1-0, the one point, the single point, but that was a great final shot under a lot of pressure.
Yes, facing quite a few. I mean, there's a lot of yellow stones in there the whole end, and just a lot of pressure being exerted by Ontario. They've been playing a good game, but and it is just 1. So Ontario with the steal of 1, but great last draw there by Yukon to take 2 of those potential steal points away. So 4-0 for Ontario as we head into the 3rd end.
As I scan across the other sheets, I see on sheet B we've got Quebec and Northern Ontario playing. Currently in the 3rd end, it's 4-0 Quebec as they took 2 in the first and 2 in the second. Sheet D, we have BC and PEI. PEI scoring a big 4-ender in the first end, so some work for BC to do to come back in that game. see, and that's the ladies' draw as well. I see the men's draw on the next sheet. Alberta playing New Brunswick, with New Brunswick up 1 in the third. And on the far sheet, we have Nova Scotia and PEI men's play, and it's 3-2 playing in the third for Nova Scotia.
As we go through lead rocks here in the third end of our feature, Yukon versus Ontario. As Yukon brings one into the rings here.
Interesting that the lead rocks, we've seen so many in the rings and not a lot of guard action in this game. It seems like both teams are, I don't know if the if the weight is just a little bit slick coming into the house and they're going there not by design, or if that is the strategy here. It's been interesting. The first 3 ends now we've seen that.
Yeah, almost no guards, and the ones we have seen have been later on in the end, so kind of surprising. Actually, we've seen a lot more guards in the past few games, but of course they're all different, but interesting to see the way the teams choose to do it based on how the ice is running there. A nice takeout there by Ontario lead, Nadine Simpson. Update for you on sheet D. BC has picked up 3, so the ladies' game, so they now trail PEI by 1 as PEI heads into the third end with a hammer.
Well, that proves my theory. If you're going to give up a big end, do it in the first end. You got time to recover.
That's right.
So
you get time to get it back.
They've come right back and repaid the favor, taking 3 in the second.
Yeah, and we'll see if Yukon's able to do that here. If they can get 2 or 3, they'll be in a good position to come back. If you are looking to keep up to date on any of the other games, you can always visit curling.ca/scoreboard, and they'll have all of the end-to-end updates as well as all of the standings and results of all the previous games. Happening next door starting tomorrow is the Home Hardware Canada Cup, and that's happening just in the Sobeys Arena here at the Leduc Recreation Center. Wonderful facility, and we've got top 7 men's and women's teams in Canada, and they'll be competing starting tomorrow. And prize there is well sought after. It's a berth into the Olympic trials, and so the teams will be very eager to pick up the title in that event, and that starts tomorrow.
There's a buzz of excitement in the room, in the house today as the teams are arriving and going through their practice routines on that sheet. And back to this game on sheet A, we have Ontario lying 2 and Yukon attempting to freeze. With the second, Candice Braga throwing one in here.
Weight looks pretty close here. Little bump, but pretty close with the weight. Bumps it back about a 1.5 feet or so there, but they are shot rock for the moment.
A little more separation than they would have liked, but it's nice to be have that backing.
Yeah, as Ontario looks to remove the red here, it does have to be a little careful. If they over curl here, they could end up in a jam, and then Yukon would have a chance to potentially split the ring. So we'll keep an eye on this one as it goes down. As the sweepers get on it here, it seems to be moving quite a bit, so have to be careful with this jam here.
They're trying to hold it.
Can they out it far enough? And not quite. So there's the jam there. The one good thing there about that shot for Ontario is that they did leave themselves shot rock. However, it is Yukon throwing here, and they do have the hammer. So chance now to hit this on the beak and keep splitting the rings for the rest of the end. To pick up their 2 would be a nice way to start bouncing back here in the third end.
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of rocks to come yet, but that would be the strategy. You're wanting to trade stones and take your 2. This one's curling harder than they anticipated, though.
They do remove it from play. But now one lonely Yukon stone there in the back of the 12-foot. Ontario looks to take it out and Now we may be potentially setting up for a blank, although we said that in the first end and ended up being a big one. So see how the rest of this one plays out.
Rock's well thrown and well swept.
Just about on the nose there, and Ontario will set one up. First rock here for Yukon third, Lainey Klassen, as she was in the third end here. Looking to freeze down to it, it looks like.
I think Ontario, given the choice, would much rather play the game on the front half of the house, but Yukon seems to have what plays in their favor, and that is having the backing at the back. It enables them to play the freeze and try and get their deuce that way.
That's right, it certainly does, and that one coming up a little bit short there. And their second shot, but Ontario is going to get rid of it anyway. It's a smart call, of course, here. You're looking to force, or even a blank is fine, but you don't want to be giving up two out of the blue, so with a chance to control the end here, as long as this one's made, and it looks good.
It's running fairly straight. They were sweeping it hard, and I think they straightened it up a bit, and we're going to get the roll out on the shooter. That'll give Yukon the same opportunity to freeze once more.
That's right, and we'll see if they can make it on the second attempt here. And last of the third stones here in the third end. One of the other changes here for these teams that a lot of them haven't experienced before is the addition of the time clock. So the thinking time allotted, they're both given, both teams are given 30 minutes of thinking time for 8 ends of play. But that's new to a lot of the teams, and usually that does end up being plenty of time, but it's just sort of one more little thing to think about, and as the stone finishes up here in the back forefoot.
It's one more task they put on the front end. Not only do they have to throw and sweep hard, but they got to watch the clock too.
That's right. We got to make their. I mean, and the thing too is we've seen a few blank ends in the past, and that certainly speeds up your time clock. The more hits you're playing, the more time you're able to bank, and so there's been a few hits this end. This one's been moving relatively fast. A couple draws as well, but.
A lot of these teams I spoke to have said that they were timing some of their games back in their clubs just to get used to that time, but they also said it certainly feels different when you're out here and the lights are on and the pressure's on. And
that's right, it's very bright out there, and there's lots going on, and there's all the other teams around you as well. I mean, there's as many as 8 sheets going here at any given time, so they've certainly got a lot to keep track of, but they've all been doing an excellent job of it here, and as the hit is made there, and Ontario lies too.
That little roll to the side gives her a little better opportunity, gives Peggy Doroz a little better opportunity to freeze one in there. Be a little more difficult to remove if she gets it in the right place.
That's right, here a chance now. This is see if we can get a skip's deuce out of this one.
This has really been a cat and mouse game of freeze attempts and back part of the rings. There we did see some action late in the second end with come arounds, but for the most part it's been a cat and mouse game trying to play the freezes and removing the rocks off the face of the freeze.
That's right. There hasn't. There's been a couple freezes, but a lot of them have been either a little heavy or a little light, so that's led to some separation and the chances for the other teams to just remove them from play as this one settles down here.
So he's in a good spot there. That's certainly removable with the separation, but there's 2 catchers behind there, so.
That's right. It's if you over curl at all on this one, or even really get anywhere off the high side of that one there, you could be looking at big trouble there. You could be giving up 2 pretty easily. So Got to hit it in the right spot.
I think we'll see Laurie Shields pick up the weight a little bit here, and she's not too concerned about keeping Shooter around. This would be a force for one, and that would be her desired outcome for this end.
Yeah, certainly she'd love to get the hammer back in an even end and be up a few points as well. Would be a really advantageous position for her. So as she looks to make it here. A little more weight on this one as the sweepers are off it, but it looks close.
She's got it. She's got a piece.
And she has, and she's picked it clean. That's a nice shot there. Rolls the shooter, but still is sitting 2, so UConn will have to draw for their single.
It's important that she didn't clip the back one on the way, or the blank would be in play. Leaving both rocks out there forces the draw for one.
Yes, certainly, and UConn would have loved to get a blank in this one. It give them a hammer in the 4th end and a chance to score a pair or more. So nice end here from, seen some good shots from both teams, but we'll see if UConn's able to pick up the single here as Peggy Duros goes for her last shot, and this is the final stone of the 3rd end. She does have backing to come down to as well, so that's always an option. Looks like it may be a little warm as the sweepers just light dusting as they back off now, but as we said,
playing the same line, so they have a pretty good look at that rock coming down the ice for the sweepers.
That's
as well.
right, as they just threw it, and
very nicely done.
Looks good as it bumps on the backing there as UConn will pick up their first point, and it's 4-1 for Ontario after 3 as Ontario heads into the 4th end with the hammer, looking to widen their lead.
See, looking at the sheet beside us, we have Quebec and Northern Ontario, and the 3rd end was a blank, so they're playing in the 4th. Quebec holds on to the 4-0 lead. This end, I think, Denver, it's going to be interesting to see if they are able to establish the guards out front and take advantage of the free guard zone, and bring more rocks into play and different opportunities for when they get into Skip's rocks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been kind of interesting these first few ends as well. I mean, you know, going for a blank in the first, which didn't quite work out there, but we usually see quite a few more guards in play, even in the 2nd end, especially after, you know, giving up a few points. So it's been interesting. UConn is on the board now, and sometimes it is a case for teams. They have some trouble with the hammer, and so they can convert over even with just a single, and some teams are able to get in there and steal. And so certainly an option for UConn now to try and either limit Ontario to 1. They'd love to get the hammer back, but they'd love to steal even more. So see how they set up their end here as they've thrown a guard on their first.
Steal here would put them in a pretty positive frame of mind heading into the 4th end break. You know, it puts them back in the game with 4 ends to go yet. I think it's a pretty important end for them here. Yeah,
and I mean, you know, even a steal of 1 is pretty key on that one. You want to, if you always feel as if you're within 2 points, you always feel like even if you're chasing, you're still in it. 2's you know, it's a good lead to have, but it's by no means a guaranteed safe one. And so I find if you can be within 2, it helps keep the team's energy up, and it keeps them sort of focused and keeps them chasing, especially if you're the team that's if you're down.
There's a nice shot coming in at backline weight. Just trying to move that one out from behind the guard.
Gets by it there.
Behind the tee line again. They're taking it right out of the house, so that's a nice shot. Very nice. Yeah,
nice weight there. We've seen, it's interesting, there's been a lot of, in the past few games here, we've seen a lot of shots along the center line, of course, a lot of lightweight taps like we've seen just like that one there, and it's been interesting. A lot of teams haven't been quite able to roll under the guard there, but playing the soft weight is usually the way to go on those.
I think we have our first clean miss of the game on a hit. This one got away on her early. I think the release on the release, the turn was in a little bit, and it just seemed to grab that curl, and it missed the target.
Yeah, and I mean, the rock they were aiming for is just off the center line, but as soon as you're throwing sort of towards the wings and away from center, they can often catch the curl a little bit quicker and sort of in an unexpected way, and just a little bit out of her hand. She may have started it there a little bit, so that one gets away from them as Yukon now has a chance to get some rocks. It's all Yukon stones in and around the house right now, so they have a chance to set up something good and potentially get a steal here. As this guard
get
comes
that
in.
guard to the center line. Still a port there to come through, but you know, as they say, you still got to get through there.
That's right, and it's not the widest one, and with a little bit of a stagger there, I mean, it does favor the tap in there the way they are staggered, but still not a precision shot here, that's for sure. You got to get through the port and catch the curl a little bit more just to make sure you bump that back. You don't need to completely remove the Yukon stone here. You might like to, but even just tapping it behind the tee line at least makes it not quite as relevant.
Trying a board weight shot to remove it.
Line looks pretty close here as it curls in nicely. It's a nice rock there, good weight. It is open, but lovely weight and a good result for them.
They had a nice little roll off of that contact. You know, it didn't go in behind the guard, but it changes the turn.
It does, and that might be critical given the way now that we see those guards lined up there. It's a lot more difficult to curl through those now and make contact with that yellow stone.
We've seen good curling action in this area, and I think they're tight to the guard. Well done.
But they get through it and even a little
turn.
roll. So great shot there by Yukon there, and their second Candice Braga. So great shot by her.
It's good weight choice. You know, a little less weight in that hole wasn't there. They had to keep the weight up to
That's
make
right,
that hit.
Yeah. Especially the guards the way they were. It's as nice as it is to be able to control the weight with a little lower. Yeah, often are times where you call for a little more weight, and that's one of them. Called and made.
To see if Samantha Fuller can follow her down here.
This one starts to curl. It's close to the guard, but they get by. Nice shot, and they roll. They will pop out the other side there, but does remove the Yukon stone. So.
Well, they're electing for the hit and roll versus going around. I think Peggy DeRose knows that a steal is, of course, you know, the goal here. However, she can't afford to give up two neither. So.
That's right. You know, while you're, you know, one part of you thinking about that steal, you also got to think, well, if we don't end up getting it, we do have to limit the damage. So that one just didn't quite come up for them there, just about on the lid, but. Yeah, you don't want to be leaving too many of the yellows around. Even if you are in a good position, could change quickly, and you don't want to be giving up more than one here.
Ontario quite comfortable just to keep removing stones and try and maintain their lead. Control of the game. Well, the hit and roll is there for either team. We're going to have to see who wins that hit and roll to the button.
Yeah, after a couple of traded nose hits there, that rock's fairly high. So before, if you made the hit and roll, it'd still be good, but it'd be behind tee line for sure. But this one, you might be able to catch it good enough that you could be at least on the tee line and not leaving an easy freeze. So they can make it here. Lainey Klassen throws her stone.
Weights down a little bit. This one's getting away on them on the curl.
They sweep it here. We'll see how much they catch of it. And they do remove it from play, but they will roll out themselves. So
Or he's electing to go in as opposed to removing a guard.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's the smart call here. You are up a few points, and so you really do have two options when you're in the lead. You can just try and remove them, but even if she removes one here, there's always another, so UConn could potentially draw under it. So I think trying to get under here is a smart call. This one's really moving.
I think
Good extra weight. It's pretty close there. It does end up just in the back 8, but you know, if they'd had a little more ice and a little less sweeping, it could have been just about perfect. So
yeah, they certainly had to get it by the guard, so that was the first priority, but it leaves them behind the tee line again.
yeah, certainly you'd rather be in the rings here than crash on the guard, but interesting call here by UConn. It looks like they may be attempting to hit it through the port there. It's definitely there, and they're electing to do so instead of drawing around.
Yeah, the ice call does look like a removal. Maybe she's hoping for a hit and roll behind a guard, and if she can roll behind on the left side, as we said, so that would be behind the rock that's closest to the rings. But with the staggered guards the way they are, that little roll to that side would certainly put some pressure on Ontario.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can get one in a good position here, they could be looking at a steal and at least a force. Peggy Doro's in her first here in the 4th end. UConn trails.
Certainly got contact. It's how far is she going to roll on this?
She gets through.
That's
a nice shot.
There's the shot call.
That's what they were looking for there. They got through that one. They got a nice little roll on that too. It came up just nicely through the center line there at the end and got by the guard with about an inch to spare and hooked underneath. So you can see a little bit of it, but that's a real nice shot there for UConn to help bolster their chances here of scoring.
And we've seen a few rocks come through this port already on takeouts, and it's a bit of a challenging shot, as I said before, the way they're staggered, and the teams have figured that out. And Laurie's going to try once more to fit a rock through there.
That's right. We've seen actually all of the hits that have come through that port this end. They've all been made, so they've got that center curl there figured out either way so far. So let's see if they can make it now. This is the slightly more difficult way to get through them here. Looks like she's playing the in turn at it here, and to get at this redstone.
Throwing firm board weight at this.
It's one of these ones to watch. Sometimes they get off and then they can jump on you really quickly. So I think it's smart here for them to already be sweeping it here, as we can see as it starts to take off. It looks like they're through. So another one through that port. She's made it. So really nice shot there.
Some nice shots, and we get to watch it one more time.
That's right. Yes, we'll see if we can get another pair of rocks down there. It's they've all been down through there, and that's a really nice shot. Good call there by the sweepers as well to get on that when they did those rocks down the center line. They can look like they're going to be on the one guard, but the way they're staggered, all of a sudden they can really hook over, and all of a sudden you're on the guard. And you saw there how close it did get. So
yeah, they've got to be ready to jump it. You know, it's got some steady curl as it comes down, and once it's coming towards the hog line, it seems once they've cleared that top rock, then they're on it hard, trying to hold it straight the rest of the way in. And
that's right, and it's a tricky spot too, because you don't want to jump it right away, because then you'll stay out on the line and it won't catch over center. But boy, once it does, it'll move.
I think this shot is as much about the weight as it is hitting the broom. As Peggy sets up to throw here. This is the last rock for UConn.
In the 4th. This one looks like it might be a little tight, but it does seem to be holding on the line. Got to be careful here.
I think they're comfortable.
There's another one through the port.
And a little roll.
That's a great shot, and they roll to the other side. So really nice control there, and nice little scrub there by UConn. So good team shot there, good communication, and now it looks like Ontario is going to come down to it. And
I think we're seeing a draw for one.
That's right, and it's only one red rock in there, but so tough to remove that and roll out yourself. So
certainly from the hack, I don't think you would see much of it, if any, on the outside. And
no, you'd have to throw pretty good weight at it too, and if you're ever off at all, you're giving up a steal. So if this is made here, it's a good end by Yukon to play some good rocks and some fantastic curling shots through that port that we've seen this in. Must about, what, 5 or 6 of them made there, and
just tremendous. That hole isn't all that big to come through. That port was leaving perhaps an inch on each side.
No, and again with different people as well, making them each time, and so really impressive stuff here.
Yeah, these curlers are showing us how they got here.
That's right, bit of a discrepancy right now, but you wouldn't know it this end, as this one looks to settle down here.
It looks nice, a little finish coming in.
And it is for 1. So Ontario will pick up 1 more point as we head into the 4th end break here. It'll be 5-1 for Ontario. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
And he's also a curler!
Guys, I've never actually been curling before.
And you call yourself a Canadian?
I'm sorry.
There's more than 1,000 curling facilities in Canada. Be a good Canadian and find one near you today.
One might say I was born to overcome challenges. 2 months premature, in and out of the hospital, and a heart condition. My parents call me their miracle baby. As with all survivors, I searched for my place in this world, and I found it here. This pebbled ice is where I battle now, and at only 12, I am already a 5-year veteran of this sport. I have my sights set on the Olympics. I will push hard to get there. The only size that matters in this sport is the size of your dreams.
Curling! The game with the ice, and the rocks, and the sweeping, and the yelling. Each game starts with a handshake. Then, 2 teams of 4 people take turns throwing 44-pound stones down a sheet of ice. Each team throws 8 rocks, and the team closest to the center after all the rocks are thrown will score the points. This process is repeated for 6 to 10 rounds until one team is victorious. It's just that simple. Or is it?
Before there was ice, there was our hallway at home. I was always the shy, quiet kid who loved math. But when I saw math come alive in the geometry of the game, I found my passion and my voice. It's a game of precision, a game of inches. It's the equation that now defines who I am.
Curling teaches as much about life as it does about sport. Club, team, house, lead, rock. These are the words of our sport, words we embody, powerful words, words that speak to everything we represent: respect, togetherness, strength. Our games begin with a handshake and a kind word. We congratulate our opponents when they make a good shot. We remain silent when they falter. We even call our own fouls. When we win, we celebrate with modesty, with humility. We own our mistakes. When defeated, we concede without shame. Win or lose, we hug with abandon, because we genuinely care about our fellow athletes. Curling doesn't discriminate. The ice doesn't judge. It adapts. It accepts. Curling isn't a book to be judged by its cover. On these sheets, everyone is on the same page. It's what's on the inside that counts. The path to victory isn't always smooth. We use friction as an advantage and adversity as an opportunity. The battle is within ourselves, to improve, to advance. We dream big. We play with heart. We focus on these circles and imagine podiums in far-off places. Curling is what the world needs right now. Connection to one another, one team, one community. Curling is more than a sport. It's a lifestyle, a philosophy, a movement, a belief in self, in kindness, in good health, and in good fun. Supported by a passionate community steeped in tradition and united in pride. In a game of inches, every move counts. Are you ready to make yours? The support of the curling community makes it possible for thousands of kids across Canada to follow their dreams, on and off the ice. Thank you for giving generously.
All right, welcome back everyone. We are here at the Canadian Curling Club Championships 2019 here in Leduc, Alberta, and our feature matchup tonight is the Yukon versus the Ontario. It's the ladies' game here as after 4 ends, Ontario leads 5-1. They opened up with a big 3 in the first end and stole 1 in the second, and that got them off rolling here, but half the game still left, so lots of opportunity for Yukon to get back into it here.
And we're seeing this end start out as some others, with rocks going right into the house. We don't have any guards out front, and Ontario's trying to pick one off the face here.
Yes, it's been a bit more unique than some of the other games we've seen here. We've traditionally had a lot more guards, especially with a score deficit, but we'll see how this works out here for both of the teams.
Well, there's a break for Yukon. We made use of the backing behind there, and now they're looking to draw a second one in there. Yukon has the hammer this end.
Yeah, with that jam on the back there and the little roll of the yellow, Yukon now making a draw, and it's their lead, Inga Brown here. This is her second stone.
Sweepers are working hard to get this one in the 12-foot.
Yeah, they sure are. We'll see if this one. And then it's there, so it'll be for second shot. So they are sitting 2 at the moment. Lots of rocks to come, but a promising start for Yukon. The hammer.
See Ontario second, Samantha Fuller setting to throw this takeout. It's nice to see the communication between Samantha and her sweepers as they discuss what the line and the weight that she's going to be throwing.
Yeah, and you know, halfway through the game, they've got a pretty good idea now, both the teams do, of the paths and how they'll move for the most part here. So that communication is key, and it's been very impressive to see between all of the teams here at this event. It's been very high caliber communication between all of them, and very impressive to see.
You know, we see a lot of skill being displayed here, both the men's and the women's side of the club championships, as these are the best teams from their respective provinces. It's also interesting to see the age demographic. We see curlers of, you know, from the younger, perhaps coming out of the junior ranks, making it to here, as well as some of the veterans, as you'd mentioned earlier, Denver. Some of these people have curled in slam events and perhaps had an appearance at the Scotties. So it's quite a skill level and also quite a demographic that we're seeing.
Yeah, and it's one of the sort of really unique things about this curling club championship. I mean, you know, at the very elite level, there's a little bit less range. We have seen in the past few years a few of the younger teams moving into the higher caliber events, but this one really showcases all of the different age ranges, that's for sure. So a lot of people that have played in the juniors and in their junior provincials and nationals, and now they're here at the Curling Club Championship, and this is a national championship, so a lot of pride here for a lot of these teams to put their provincial colors on their back and come out here and play.
It takes a lot of work to earn that crest in your respective province, so they wear it with pride here. Yukon looking for another hit in the 4-foot, wanting to hit and stay there.
As this one comes down here, and they'll get a little roll. It's covering up the button there, and they are the shot rock for the moment. I believe their third shot as well there, John. I don't know about you, but I would say it's red. That's third shot at the top of the 12-foot there.
I'd agree. My eyes never failed me on those types of calls from up in the lounge, I can tell you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Get a good overhead. And
this weight is down, and the release was perhaps a little inside.
Yeah, this may be plan B to pick off the other red here at the top of the 12. It is third shot, so it wouldn't be a bad plan B, but oh, it's a bit of an unfortunate miss there, as it actually just scrapes the one on the button there. So Yukon now, they do have the hammer, and just having a look here, they are to see if their third shot, and might be able to sit a few points here if they're, and looks like they are opting to go after the yellow in the top 8-foot there.
And the call was the nose hit. It's interesting, a little roll to the towards the yellow on the corner might take a double away.
Yeah, it would make it a lot more difficult. You may end up with a jam, so we'll have to keep an eye on this and see where this ends up. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a little roll to the sides as well, but this one over curling on them as well, and so unfortunately are going to remove their own red at the top of the 12-foot from play. So for sure Ontario's second and third shot now as they look to sit three, and what a turnaround there. Two misses, one back-to-back for each of the teams, but maybe Yukon's that cost them a little bit more here as they roll out, but also remove their own.
Yeah, it's part of the beauty of the game, you know, that shot's made, they're laying three. Instead, this shot is comes down the ice, and we see a nice shot by Lisa Rolfe to put Ontario at a count of 3 in the house right now. But that's one shot away from being Yukon 3, you know. It was just, again, a game of inches. It rolled it in a little bit, and perhaps weight was down.
Yeah, I'd like to see both the teams maybe bring up their weight a little bit on the hits here. You don't want to throw crazy weight at them. be a little unpredictable, but we've seen now, especially around the center line, it's curling quite good, and so some of the rocks are definitely getting away on them, and so I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more raised weight from both of the teams here. I think would be to both of their advantage, just to make sure they get a little more consistency on the hits. But
we're seeing Yukon move to a freeze game, trying to freeze one in there to try and get their deuce.
As they bump and roll over here, maybe about a quarter under cover there, but should be able to see almost all of it. Will Laurie Shields, as she gets ready to throw her first stone here in the 5th end. She comes down the ice. And, from our perspective here, you can see just about all the stones. So
at this point of the game, they know the ice fairly well. They've been playing all the turns. I think this is a pretty confident shot for Laurie to throw. Yukon having last rock, they still have a strong opportunity to take their one, but that's the force that Ontario is looking with and looking for, and that would give them control of the game at that point.
That's right, and a force here for Ontario forcing Yukon here is a great result. If they get it, they'd have Hammer back in the even end. This one over curls though on them, and they remove their own. They do roll to about the T line there, but once again now there's a chance for Yukon.
Certainly been an interesting end. We've seen momentum shift with every shot from one team to the other, and there's another opportunity for Yukon to take control of the end and bring the deuce back into play.
That's right. It's sometimes hard to know who has control of the end and even the game, although at this point in the game Ontario is up by a decent margin here, but within the end it's been very back and forth, and now Peggy Doors here with her first in the 5th. See if she can't get her team back in it with a couple.
We have noticed that the shots that are being missed are missed on over curls, so it'll be interesting to see if they have the sweepers jump the rock early just to hold the line and not lose it on the curl. That's been a consistent problem for the teams in this end.
Yeah, it looks like she's going to be throwing maybe a bit more weight here too, given where the broom is, and I like that. I think a little more weight here is a good spot, and it does look to be up a little bit more weight as the sweepers get on it here. Looks pretty close. It might need to curl a little bit more, but it does appear to be coming
a nice
to
shot.
center. And there we go, and a little bit roll over too. That's a good spot too. Could bring a jam into play as she sits 2 here. So one more rock for Ontario's Laurie Shields, and take a moment here. Ontario like to shout out their curling club. It's the York Curling Club and their manager Jack. So for all of you watching from Ontario, and indeed if you are friends of family or club mates of this Ontario team here, they're saying hello to all of you.
These rocks are staggered a bit, and you might wonder if the double's in play, but I don't think the stagger is extreme enough. It's fairly flat.
Would require a lot of weight.
A little more weight than
we've seen so far.
This would be about a 2-hopper to make the double across at that flat line. But
yeah, that would require a lot more weight. So I think smart call here if you can just pick it off and even roll over towards the red. This can't over curl though. A jam here could give Yukon 3. Doesn't look like it'll over curl though, and
we might have, and we roll underneath it.
So as it stands right now, Yukon sits the 1 as Ontario rolls out. So shot for 2 now for Yukon, get themselves back in it here. 1 for sure at the moment.
Peggy has the choice of drawing the 4-foot. She is first shot, or taking the hit.
Yeah,
she's elected to hit as she just threw one down that path, and perhaps a sign of the confidence. 2 is so important. I think she's more confident with the hit at this point than throwing the draw.
Yeah, and it's been a while since she's thrown a draw when you consider she just threw a hit. But we also had the 4th end break before this, so it's been upwards of over 10 minutes since she would have even had the chance to throw a draw, and so having just played the hit, I'm sure feels a little more confident with this one. And so needing to make this here, but it, at the very least is a counting one.
There's always a debate over what the right call is, but I can tell you, Denver, the right call is the shot that you're going to make, that you feel confident making.
Right.
So if you know what the outcome's going to be, it's you know, here we're seeing the rock come into the house. She looks like she's got a pretty good chunk of it. So
cleaning it here as it comes in, and really nice shot there from Peggy DeRose of Yukon as they pick up 2 here in the 5th and bring it to a 2-point margin. So 5-3 for Ontario as they take Hammer into the 6th end.
That 2 is critical. You know, it's game on with the 2-point spread now as they head into 5 with 3 ends to go. Or into 6, I'm sorry, with 3 ends to go. This is certainly the game's still on. The advantage was with Ontario having that cushion and now having Hammer back, but Yukon's got to feel a lot better about their chances now after picking up 2 in the 5th.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, as we talked about a little bit earlier, I mean, Ontario's got to be happy being up 2 with Hammer, but also for Yukon, that 2-point margin is critical. Curling is very much a mental game as much as it is about executing out on the ice, and if you believe you're in the game, then you're in the game. So getting within 2 has got to feel good for Yukon here. Get a deuce under their belt.
They're taking advantage of the free guard zone, throwing their first one up as a guard. As I glance across the sheets, I see Quebec and Northern Ontario playing in 6. Quebec with a 5-0 lead, taking 1 in the 5th. We see that's the ladies' draw. In the ladies' draw, we also have BC and Prince Edward Island, with Prince Edward Island holding a 7-4 lead. We've got a real battle of the men's going on the next sheet with Alberta and New Brunswick. New Brunswick holding a 2-1 lead after 4 ends. So that's a very tight game going on there. And the far sheet, we've got the men's draw, Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, all tied up at 5, playing in the 6th end. Nice come around by Ontario here.
Yeah, it's real nice. It's fully buried in top 4. That's just about one of the more perfect spots you could put it. It's nice to have those rocks in the top 4. That's sort of the power area. Rocks top 8, top 4, you can always promote them up and tap them around, and so having rocks in there is always a really critical part of, especially with Hammer.
Nice touch by Nadine to put it in that control position. I see Yukon trying to get another one in there. Gonna get this one in the rings, but it'll be wide open.
Take a moment here to thank all of the volunteers and staff here at both this Canadian Curling Club Championship as well as the Canada Cup of Curling, the Home Hardware Canada Cup, as that kicks off the action tomorrow. There's hundreds of volunteers between the 2 events here at the Leduc Recreation Center, as well as several staff members and of course all the umpires and many other officials. So thanks to all of you to help keep this event running smoothly.
I think Leduc has a very strong group of individuals that like to take on these types of events and take control, and we certainly are blessed to have a lot of volunteers that can support this event. But a shout out to all those that are outside of our region. You know, talking to other people that are volunteers. I've talked to people from BC who have perhaps spouses playing in this event, or other parts of Canada coming here and offering their time to help support the event. That's what makes it work. That's what makes curling such a strong community.
Yeah, really a community event here. Lots of support from friends and family and club mates. So we bring our attention here back to the game here. So it's second stones here for Candice Braga here as she throws her first in the 6th end, and looking to come into the rings here. It does look like it's a little warm, but it may dig in its heels and get around that yellow. Might be all right as it starts to slow down here.
Back 8th at second shot. Yukon has elected to play the freeze and go for the steal that way.
Yeah, a little warm on that one, but when you are down, you always want to have a few extra rocks in place. So it is second shot, and that might come into play later with either cutting Ontario down here or potentially a steal, depending on how these guards and rocks get moved around. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that.
Laurie Shields wasted no time moving up and peeling this guard off. She knows she's in control at this point, and she's not going to let the guards come into play as this end goes on.
Yeah, that's a nice peel there made by Samantha Fuller there, the second off Team Ontario.
Team Yukon changing it up now, going for the hit. The hit would give them first and second shot. Take some patience calling the line here. You don't want to, you have to be aware of the jam potential at the back, but you also don't want to lose the shooter.
Doesn't spin back. No, it doesn't. So rolls out of the house there. So unfortunate to roll out there, but did at the very least remove the Ontario counter. Yukon is shot for the moment.
Some real good sweeping effort by Lisa trying to hold it straight.
Right on the lid. Good sweep there.
Yeah, she had good pressure on that broom all the way down, holding that turn and holding it for the contact and saving the shooter. That's a critical shot there.
As we get into third stones here, we've got Lainey Clausen from Yukon here in her first, and does look like they're playing the hit.
You know, it's a delicate balance between defense and offense. Team Yukon considering the freeze, but also considering the fact that they don't want to give two right back. So they're trying to accomplish both with the hit and roll on top of the other yellow.
That's right. It's tricky because you don't want to leave those yellow counters in there.
Corner of the sheet got him.
It, and unfortunately over curls a little bit on them there as it pulls towards the center line, catches the curl there, and so Ontario sitting two.
Ontario spreading the rocks around on the house here, taking away possibilities of any double.
Yeah, that's a smart call, and they want to, now that they're in control here, they want to have a few rocks in play and see if they can close out the game.
The Skip's rock, with last rock for Laurie, and knowing she has that lead, she's certainly going to keep the 8 foot open for her.
That's right. She'd love to have, you know, even if things go south here, she'd love to have it open so that she could at the very least draw for a single. And although at this point in the end, it looks like they are setting up for potentially more. So looks like they might be going for the same shot here, Yukon, as they did last time, as Lainey Clausen and her last in this end.
I think it's your get out of jail card. If you can make this hit and roll on top of that yellow, you've got a chance at saving the end, but you've got to get one over to that other side. They're going to nose this one on the corner.
Yeah, and it's possible, you know, they when they nicked it the first time, it pushed that rock out farther, and you know, coming down a new path, they may have been fooled a little bit by how much it would curl. That one certainly didn't curl as much as the first one, and so gets it on the nose, and Ontario with a chance to come in again. Saying they think it will be around T line here, so sweeper's backed off. Don't
She's
want to
got
leave
nice
it.
weight coming into the house.
Don't want to leave it deep behind the tee because that's a freeze, but back there's all right, although it slides a little far, and it is 4th shot at the moment, so not quite the result Lisa was looking for there, but they are still sitting 2, and that's a pretty tough double.
Well, this leaves Team Yukon with a choice to make. They're debating whether they should play the hit and roll off the yellow and try and flop on top of the one behind the tee, or do they freeze? And certainly there's third option of just a nose hit, but that's too easy for Ontario on their next shot. So they've elected to play the hit and roll. I like this call. I think it's an aggressive call. Again, it's a way to accomplish your offense and defense all in one shot.
That's right. You're removing one of the yellows, and potentially setting yourself up for a freeze here if this is made in the right spot. I like the call. My only concern is how far they'll be able to get the roll on top of that yellow. If they don't get it over top of it enough, then would leave a chance for them to Ontario to pick it out. But if this is made nicely, then could be a real good shot here for Yukon. So bit of a pressure shot, but if this is made, could look good for Yukon.
She's throwing a little weight at this. Sweepers are going hard to try to hold it. The line looks to be curling. It's getting away on them. Could have a thin double.
Well, we'll
perhaps.
see where this goes down to, and
Look at that.
kicks it, and a real nice shot there by the Duke. It curls up on them pretty.
Perfect.
It's Yukon makes the double, and they do sit 2. So a real nice shot
Peggy
there.
with her sense of humor after will tell you that was the call shot.
That's right, yeah. Hit it a little thin, but works out real nicely for them in the end there.
Well done. You know, that Sweepers never gave up on that shot all the way down, and it was getting away on them, but it takes a pretty strong effort, and they had their pressure on those brooms holding it.
No, that's right. And the nice thing about it for them there, too, as well, is they didn't even roll out after they'd made it. So it left them sitting 2 and not just the one, which could be the big difference here, is could be a pretty good chance to get a force for Yukon. And so that they'd love to see that. Of course, they'd prefer a steal, but all of a sudden looking real nice for Yukon after that double there. So.
And for Team Ontario, that draw sliding to the back of the 12 makes it a lot more difficult now. You can't afford to roll out your last shooter if you are throwing a hit.
That's right.
They're holding this one. Another good sweeping effort by Nadine. Trying to hold that rock, and she does so.
So it hits just off the nose and leaves Yukon a chance to make one right back. And where would you roll here, John, if you could roll anywhere in the rings?
You know, Peggy has a choice here as well to decide whether she's going to hit and nose it right on the button. Sometimes the hardest rock to hit is the one right on the center line. If she rolls to the left, she's got backing, and that would be the temptation for Ontario to hit. However, if you roll too far, the draw is a little easier. I don't mind the roll into the 8-foot. If you roll off into the 8-foot, the Ontario has to make a hit and stick without much room for error. If you're in the back of the house like that, you can't roll very far, and you're giving up the steal.
That's right, and that would be a big steal if Yukon is able to get it there. That put him within 1 after 6. So even a force here is good, so as long as this is made. Last rock here for Yukon as Peggy Doros throws her last. They're on it right away.
This is taking some work. She's got a good line on it, though.
And they have good sweepers.
The rock is stay straight and right out.
She's
going to get a little roll off to the side here. That's a nice spot.
Good stone and a little bit of movement, so a little bit of a different path here. Pretty likely Ontario is just going to hit it, and that is the call. So as Laurie Shields prepares to throw her last stone here in the 6th end.
I'm a little surprised they didn't stay on it to try to get the roll away from that line. It's easier to make the next takeout if you're following the same shot. You've just seen how the rock reacts. The sweepers have observed that. A roll off to the 8-foot changes the line, changes the position of the rock.
That's right. It did move, but not by too much. It's only a few inches off, so perhaps may have liked to see a little bit more movement out of it, but should be at least guaranteed at this point. It would be at least the force. So
it's a fairly straight line that they're on. That ice isn't curling too much there, and they've got good control of it now. So.
Yeah, it's a nice weight choice here. They backing off here, but I think it looks pretty nice as they hit it on the beak, and it's one more for Ontario, so they'll lead 6-3 over Yukon after the 6th end here as we look forward to the 7th end, and Yukon with their chance again with a hammer.
The force of one is important. Yukon, if they can take advantage with the hammer and score there too, it makes it pretty exciting coming home in the 8th end.
That's right, it certainly does. Critical now, they got the force, Yukon, so they need to score now for sure. As long as they can do that, it'll be a competitive game all the way through 8. So you have to score, but yeah, as long as you do that, good position.
Well, this Team Yukon started the game in a bit of a hole, but you know, there's a lot of fight in that team. They've been fighting back the whole game. And
that's right, closing the gap.
Just staying in there. They've now got the spread down to 3, but with hammer, they're in a good position.
See how they choose to approach this here as Ontario's first stone slides just to the top of the forefoot.
Call is for the corner guard, as we'd expect.
Yeah, not too surprising, trying to generate some points. We take a look at the other sheets here. We've got on sheet B the ladies' game between Quebec and Northern Ontario. Quebec 6-0 lead after 6 ends. And we got over on sheet D, we've got BC and Prince Edward Island as PEI leads that one by 4. It's a 8-4 game after 5 ends of play. The men's game on sheet E, we have Alberta and New Brunswick, and they're all tied up at 2 after 5 ends. And on the farthest over sheet, we've got the men's game between Nova Scotia and PEI, and they are all tied up at 5 apiece after 5 ends.
Back on our sheet, Ontario looking to put some pressure on coming around the guard.
Nadine Simpson here in her second stone.
This rock's taking a pretty good curl, pretty good jump coming in.
Kicks the guard over, but it's not too bad of a plan B. They do end up actually with a guard for their own stone, and it looks like it's not in the ring, so I think Yukon will be able to play on that. They did push that red guard out a little farther. Had they got it even further, then it would have been hard to use, but Yukon can still get behind it. Looks like that's what Inga Brown will be going for here in her second stone of the end.
This one's holding the center line. I don't know that they're going to get as far behind the guard as they'd like to.
Yeah, the weight seems close, but it's not moving too much as it slides to just behind the T line. Surprised it didn't go too much there. May have been something in the release, may have pushed it outside a little bit, or it could have just not curled too much. So interesting to see there.
Yeah, when you consider we saw the Ontario rock take a sudden pretty sharp curl coming in there and ticking off the Team Yukon rock, this rock really didn't make its move till late.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on too for all the teams here is on the rocks. By the time we do get to the final, the teams are able to select rocks from across any of the sheets. So something to keep an eye on if they notice any little discrepancies or anything in the rocks along the way. So they'll be keeping an eye on that for sure to see if there's any inconsistencies.
This one's coming off center a little earlier, but the sweeping got it by. Good job to make that shot. Good team shot.
Again, we see that one, the Ontario stone there, move pretty hard, so we'll see where Yukon's ends up. They'll be following a similar path, so we'll see if they get it to move as much as Ontario's had the curling action off their stones. Candice Braga and her first stone here in the 7th.
We're starting on center line. See how fast it's breaking off now. It's starting to go.
Fairly quick ice all week so far. We've seen between about a 14.5 to a 15 as a draw line from hog to hog. So
Swoopers trying to get it behind that guard. They could afford to show half a rock, but they don't want to show more than that. The half rock would bring that jam into play.
Looks like you can see most, if not all of it, but hits going towards the wings are always a little trickier. So Samantha Fuller here will have a go at it.
A little more weight on this one. Going to see how it finishes coming in. They're trying to steer it there. They've got enough.
They do, and they avoid the jam and roll over, actually almost bury underneath their own there. So pretty good result from that shot. And no real double there because they actually got underneath their own. So no way to, you can hit one of them, but unable to access both of them at one time, at least a lot more difficult to do so.
That roll certainly puts pressure on Team Yukon. The one lone guard out in front seems to be protecting the 2 Ontario Rocks. And it's coming into play here.
As they back on the guard there, they do spill their own into the rings, but and remove that. So, you know, not a bad result there. It does open up the center, so Yukon will be able to take a crack at those rocks there potentially, depending on what Ontario does. But opening up the center line about midway through the end is usually never a bad call.
Team Ontario now is going to have a little debate over this. They could, with the lead they have, they could take that rock off at the top 12 and then throw a takeout and clear that one out. However, there's risk that it jams at the back, and if that were to happen, it would leave Team Yukon with the double and counting 2. So I think the debate is, do we hit or do we throw the guard on our 2?
I'm inclined. I think I like the guard. You know, you've got lots of time left in the end. You still 4 rocks to come from each team, and you do have 3 counters in there. So, you know, I like putting up a guard about halfway along the Canadian Club Championships logo there, somewhere in there, and about in between those 2 yellows, and be a pretty nice position to be in.
And they're going to plan A, which will be run the guard or run the red out of the stones, out of the house. Yeah, the red's clearly visible. You can get to the nose.
Yeah, if you and as long as you hit it high side, there's pretty low risk of the jam here. Is Lisa Rolfe and her first, and you know, you can even roll over and cover your own.
I think Lisa would be quite happy to lose her yellow at the back there in the process.
Yeah, and they'd be happy to get rid of both of them, I'm sure, but this is a little
trying to hit it thin enough, and they're by.
They get by, and nice shot there. So hit it pretty thin, so they don't end up sticking around, but they are still sitting 3 and in control. We got 2 rocks above the tee line and 1 just behind it, and one of them is partially under cover. So
the double appears to be the easy shot, and certainly would be. It's a straight shot. The rocks are overlapped. It's a very simple shot. However, that would leave you vulnerable for the Ontario hit to follow. So that she's questioning whether she should be playing the hit off the back one and rolling behind cover instead. But they've decided to go with the double. So
I do like the double here, you know, John. If you get rid of 2 of them here, even though it's it'll be an open hit for Ontario, you're still getting rid of 2 of those stones, and you wanna have as little to worry about as possible, especially if you're getting forced to 1. You don't want to be thinking about 3 or 4 yellows. You want to be looking at only 1. So,
oh, a nice shot, and she gets the roll on top. There's jam possibilities too.
Ontario now looking to just pick that red clean off. So it comes down here as the sweepers gets on it here. Scrubbing it all the way down and avoids the jam and does, and sticks her shooter. Very nice shot there as they're sitting 3 still.
Roll off to the wings.
Opportunity now though for UConn to make a hit and roll here. You can there is a bit of a pocket created, and so a good hit and roll will would leave you in a pretty nice position.
It's fairly flat.
A little thin to get totally frozen, but even rolling over towards them, you could get buried under your own red guard, and that'd be a nice option as well.
Trying to take advantage of the rock you placed there for that purpose in the
That's
beginning
right.
of the end.
As this one comes down here, is it just to nose there? Went over curled on them just a little bit there, so they just end up with the nose. Comes back a little bit to what we talked about earlier with some of the weight choices. I wouldn't mind seeing a little more elevated weight from both of them there, but certainly understand the mentality of keeping it controlled and you know, wanting to not overdo it, because it's easy to toss them out when you do that.
We're seeing a consistent amount of curl on the ice, but it's not a tremendous amount with that control type weight. If you pick the weight up, the fear is always that it may run straight and you may not get the finish you need. They're comfortable with the lines they're playing. So you're right, Denver. They are staying with what they know.
Especially with all the hits we've seen out along the wings as well. You pick up the weight on those, and I can't even count the amount of games and shots that I've had that you try and go out to the wings and you pick up the weight a little bit and it just runs along the edges of the sheet. So nice shot there from Ontario. They're hit and roll there, and they're just ever so slightly buried, about a third of the stone buried now underneath, as UConn they're having a discussion. Lainey and Peggy there discussing what to do for Peggy's first stone.
I think we're going to see her come down and play a little tap behind the tee line. There's lots of catchers behind there. If she can get there, she'd certainly put the pressure on Ontario with the little tap.
That's right. Even if she can get really just to the nose of it, or even a sliver more underneath, be a pretty tough shot to hit and stick around for. So looking to, although there are 3 yellow stones in there right now, a good shot here could absolutely put them in a good spot for the end, potentially even to take 2. So looking for a skipper's deuce, or at least to score here, is UConn in the 7th end. Nice thing is the center is fairly open, so at the end of the day, Peggy will likely have, at the very least, a draw for 1 somewhere around the 4-foot, so comfort in that for her, I'm sure.
And we'll have to watch this line. Coming down center is where we've seen some rocks run fairly straight and only finish at the end. So we'll see how Peggy's rock reacts here as she starts it just off center.
That's right, especially some of the UConn rocks have run a little bit straighter, and that may just be in their release or their weight, as this one is sweepers back off here as it starts to move. And
it's making its move now.
There it
coming
goes.
In very nice.
Got to get off it now, and they do a little bump back, and would have liked a little more curl, but there is quite a pocket. A lot of lemons over there in the corner.
There's plenty of room by the guard to get to the nose of this. I think you could afford to take a little less ice here and have your sweepers hold it, and I think that's what she's elected to do. We don't see she's only got a few inches of ice call on this, so she's probably going to keep her weight up too.
Yeah, I like a little higher weight here. It's you're coming down to it, and it's your last stone, and so I think a little more weight helps alleviate some of the pressure on your mind if you're thinking about the jam. If you clip it, if you just clip one of those yellows, if you have a little higher weight, it's a lot easier to get it out completely and not have to worry as much about jamming it. So Laurie Shields and her last rock here for Ontario in 7.
She's coming with board weight, trying to get to the inside of it. The weight's down a little more than we might have expected, but Laurie's just ticked the guard, and the jam is happening. It is in play.
That is an unforced error there as it just comes up for them onto that guard. And you know, it looked pretty close all the way down, but it just took off towards the wings there as it crossed over that far hog line.
There may have been a little miscommunication between the third in the house calling the sweeping, not understanding that the weight was down a bit. She certainly wasn't calling the sweepers on till late. The rock made its move with that lighter weight, and they just could not hold it. So we have the draw for 2 now.
That's right, and that's it'll be a big 2 for Yukon here. That'll put them within 1 heading into 8. So, you know, it's that sort of thing can happen though. Is, you know, they take off towards the guards, and all of a sudden you have a situation like this. So that'll be a nice draw here for Peggy, as she's made a few nice ones in this game already, including that one in the second end to limit the damage. It could have been 6-0 after 2 ends, but it was 4-0 after Peggy made a great draw to hold them to steal a 1 there.
Certainly, and that was a team shot. We had the sweepers judging the weight and bringing it in, and they just made it. It just made it to cut it down to 1. And there's so many shots we can look back on in a game, but that certainly was a key shot in this one. As is this second point here. That's
right. You know, even scoring is good, but getting the 2 here, very big in a great break for Yukon, as this one looks to be coming in nicely. And nice shot there by Peggy DeRose as she picks up 2 for her team. Skipper's deuce there as they get within 1 as we head into the 8th end. Ontario is up by 1, and they will have the hammer, but 6-5 after 7.
Well, this scrappy Yukon team has been hanging in there the whole game, fighting their way back end after end, trying to play their freezes, trying to limit damage, and keeping themselves in the game, and it's paid off. Now they're a 1-point game coming home. I expect to see a lot of guards. Certainly with the free guard zone, Yukon will be trying to take advantage of that.
That's right, and get some clutter in there. And, you know, it's against a very competitive-looking Ontario team here. Ontario won their first over New Brunswick, and they've been looking strong just about this whole game. Not too many misses here, and, you know, Ontario is a big province, so a lot of depth of field there. So definitely Yukon making a real good effort against Ontario here now within 1.
At the same time, I think Team Ontario is feeling confident as well, with their veteran skip Laurie Shields having hammer in the last end and up 1. That's a position you hope to be in usually in competitive games. This one's coming down to the wire. It's going to be an exciting finish.
Yeah, that's right. This will be a close one, but some of the other games haven't been, as they've finished up here. On sheet B, the game between Quebec and Northern Ontario, the ladies' game there, that finishes after 7 ends with handshakes. It's an 11-0 game for the team from Quebec. And the ladies' game that was on sheet D, that's PEI versus BC, and they finished after 7 as well with a 9-4. Close game over on sheet E, the men's game of Alberta and New Brunswick, and it is 3-2 for New Brunswick after 6, so very tight, low-scoring game there. And then final sheet, we've got Nova Scotia and PEI. That's a men's game, and PEI leads by 1. It's a 6-5 there after 6 ends. So some bigger scores here and some few tight ones, and this one certainly didn't look like it might be tight after 2 ends, but it's within 1 now, and it's anyone's game.
Ontario rock slid to the back 4. The temptation might be to freeze that, but I think Peggy DeRose knows that the key to their success is going to be some guards, having the guards in place so they can steal. Can the sweepers get this over?
And it is. The hands go up, and they're over the line. So just so a good sweeping effort there by Raga and Klassen as they get that one over there for the team, and they've got the 2 guards up, and so that is what they're looking for. So likely soon we'll see them take a stab at the ever important 4-foot. So
well, the call was the high guard. I think that's about as high as you can go.
That's
with it.
right. Yeah, and you know, from our angle behind the booth here, you couldn't even quite see if it was over, but the smile said it all on that one from Yukon as they got it over. Ontario now be likely looking to draw in here.
They'd love to see this one weld onto the one at the back four. That may still leave the button exposed, but they're certainly going to be in the driver's seat if they can get this one top four.
And this looks like a real nice weight as it settles down, and just a fantastic draw there as a top four. So really nice shot there from Nadine Simpson there off of Team Ontario as she gets a critical first 2 stones in for her team. Yukon does have the chance here to freeze onto the button, and they may have the chance to potentially try to lock this end up if they can freeze a good one in there. This one's curling pretty good. We'll see if they can get it by the guard. It's been a good sweeping effort this whole game by this Yukon team, that's for sure.
Be rubbing off the guard here. It's going to put some pressure. It's going to be a little more difficult to get to that button now.
Yeah, but they do have, the good news is that that red stone is, as of yet, is completely free, so they can look at a tap up, run back here as Ontario take a moment to consider their next move.
Denver, would you say that rock is high enough that you could come around it and get to bite the button?
You know, I think you could. It's you know, it's still a few feet out, probably about 4 or 5 feet out from the top of the rings, and you know, I don't think you have to look at running it yet, at least for a couple more stones. I think you could sneak in there, and even just a corner freeze onto the one at the back of the button would be pretty nice, as Ontario here looking to, Samantha Fuller looking for the peel. As she makes it no problem there, and she's had some good peels all game. She's been consistent on those.
We'll see what the call is, if they're going to go for another high guard to keep some rocks in play out front. I'm a little surprised at this call. It looks like they're going to try to run the red into the pile. It's maybe a little early to be doing that. There's a number of different options for her. Coming around the right side and setting one top 8 for future use for a tap up later might be one. And a timeout is called, as I think the team and the front end want to talk this over and make sure they're all on the same page heading into this shot.
Well, this is a critical one now. This is a big decision, and I think you've got a few options here, John. You can, if they do look at, I think they were looking at running that left red there, and that's certainly an option. It's a little closer to the ring, so they would have a chance to get a stone near to the top 4, and actually it is there for a double. If you're close to about nose, you're close to actually making that double. So that, I mean, that'd be a huge shot. But there's also the draw around. And which one do you like best?
Well, the call really comes down to it's a scoreboard call. If you're up one, the run double might be your shot of choice. Being down one and without hammer, I think you need that kind of coverage out front to get there. I like the draw around the right side. And coming in, I don't think the freeze has to be made at this point. I think the draw around the right side, if they leave it in the 8 foot and partially exposed, they would have the option to tap it up later. It's going to be all about position in that 4 foot here at the end, and it looks like that might be the call.
Yukon here looking to, it looks like they'll be drawing in, and we'll see where they want to. So she says top 4 is okay, so it does appear that they'd be looking to get right corner frozen or dead nose frozen on it, but certainly top 8, top 4 is in a pretty good position as well.
This comes in nice. We know Ontario is going to be looking at opening up that front end, that front.
This looks really nice here.
What a nice shot.
Weight's good as it just gets by the guard, and as it comes and just nudges it, but just about a perfect shot there. That's a fantastic shot by Candice Draga there of Yukon. Good sweep there too from Yukon. Great team shot there. Excellent calling, called and made, and really good effort there too. That's a critical shot to have one in there now. Now you have Ontario chasing you.
You know, there's still plenty of rocks to come, but this certainly does put a little pressure on Ontario. They'll open it up, and I think we'll see Yukon replace the guard.
Yeah, I would say that's the most likely outcome here. I don't think UConn's going to want to take too many chances now that they've made that shot. This one looks to be over curling a little bit. Catches it just off the nose, so not too much room. We saw it poured a little higher than that a couple ends ago. What do you think? You think they can...
There's a little more room to come around there now, and you know, the Yukon rock is shot rock, but it is behind the tee.
That's right.
They would love nothing better than to get one in the top 4.
That's right, and this one, you know, it doesn't even have to be frozen. You put it to top 4, and you're looking to be in a really good position. So for Lainey Klassen here in her first in this final end, as they go, it looks like it might be a bit tight.
Sweepers are working hard to hold it out there. I think they're by. I think they got it. It's a nice sweep, but they want to get
Really
past
good
that
sweep.
yellow and hook it around there so that
Well, they're by. Bring it as deep as they can here.
That's a lovely shot. You know, that's a good shot. It takes away the run back on the yellow. We know Laurie's going to play that. She needs to open it up with last
that's
rock.
right. You know, she's got to open up that front there, and so, you know, a bit light there, but the excellent sweep there by the front end of Yukon, and that's a really good spot as well. So that was the miss, slight miss on that too, is that's how you want to be. You can never be heavy there, so coming light's a pretty good result.
The hope here, of course, is that you're doubling off a couple of guards and giving yourself a few more options.
As they remove the red guard and spill a yellow into the rings, but still two guards remaining.
They're hitting the guards, but you know, that's got to be considered a missed shot. They don't want to keep rocks in play out front. Team Ontario would like to have that opened up. And
that's right. They wanted to roll away there, and so that gives Yukon another chance. This time, I assume they'll be looking to come in. If they can get around the guard, even the same spot's good. They'd like to be a little deeper. This looks pretty nice here. They're definitely by that guard.
This one's staying open. It's going to stay exposed.
But there it goes in now. It's starting to hook in.
They got some nice finish. Nice finish to that rock.
Yeah, really good. We've seen some excellent sweeping here from the front end of Yukon, and that's a great position too, because Laurie Shields has got to go after her own yellow that's left up there, and that gives Yukon even more opportunities after this potentially.
This is their third shot at trying to open up that front. And
that's right, Lisa Rolfe in her last.
It looks like they're on the nose again. This might move some rocks around though.
They are, and that's an interesting, very interesting outcome there. It's they remove one of the guards there, and there's still some guards, and it's real close, but well, I think it's
a one-point game, and Team Yukon is still shot rock.
Yeah, I would say it's red. But that's real close, and that's really interesting. I think for Ontario as well as if they can touch that Yellowstone at all, it'll be shot. No question about it there. But it is, as of yet, still Yukon is the shot stone.
Is there any possibility that you could feather one through that port?
You know, you might be able to get through. But I think that you'd end up jamming onto the red there, and even though you'd have your rock there, if they guard it up, you wouldn't have a ton of options. So you might be able to get through, but I think the best option here is to corner freeze onto that yellow, and it looks like that might be the call.
It's a delicate shot. She's going to try and come around that high yellow. I don't think she's trying to get in too deep, but just take away the run back. But that shot being made, if she comes around that yellow, I think we might see Laurie try that port.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the yellow only needs touched a little bit. I think if you get a tight guard here, and maybe just on the C in Leduc there in the rings, that's in the top 12.
They're saying top 12. This looks to be a little hotter. May have a little more.
Looks like it should be going by the yellow.
I think she wants. They might want that back now. Get it back. They're taking it back. They don't want to leave an easy double.
Yeah, there's certainly you don't want to, and you know you never wanted to touch that yellow. You know, if that ever started to curl, they would have needed to go on that to try and get it by, because If you ever touch the yellow, then it's shot for sure, and it'd be real tough to get rid of.
That yellow doesn't need much of a tickle to be shot rock, does it?
Certainly not. And yeah, you just about get it shot by putting a rock right by it and having the breeze bump it up. It's real tight in there.
Well, they know this line quite well. They've been trying to remove the guards and nosing them, so now with intent they're going to try to nose this
That's
one.
right. So as long as they do what they've been doing, we should be in for an interesting one here. We'll see how the angles end up. If they hit it, the yellow in the house, a sliver on the right side, a sliver high, you may end up with some interesting angles.
There's two things that can go right for Laurie on this shot. Certainly running it back and getting her shot rock would be the desired outcome. However, if she hits it a little thin and spills both those guards off and rolls the shooter, it's going to put some pressure on Team Yukon. Peggy's last rock too, to get the guard in the perfect spot.
Yeah, no question about it. Laurie Shields and her first here in the 8th end as they get on top of this.
And they're rolling it off. Oh, unfortunate that it
Oh,
stayed.
where does that red roll? That's an interesting interesting rock there as they get a little shake it up. The red managed to roll in there, not quite for second shot, but yeah, there is a couple, couple reds in there also.
A little unfortunate for Laurie getting the jam on those guards. Again, a game of inches. She hits that just a hair thicker, and both guards are removed, and the shooter rolls away, and it'd be a little more difficult to guard that one rock.
So is your best shot here a staggered guard, do you figure?
Certainly she has to take away the opportunity the access to that yellow rock. That's just too easy a shot for the win, so she'll be just debating whether she needs to put that top 12 or if she should leave it high.
They call their second timeout here. 90-second timeout, as is Canadian standard.
They're just debating which rock they want Team Ontario to have to throw. If they throw their guard high, Team Ontario has to run the other yellow in, which is a line they haven't played as much.
That's right, although they would only have to just scrape that yellow. You know, they don't have to get it on the nose or anything, just whisper it as it goes by. So couple options here. You know, if it's interesting if that red hadn't spilled in there off that last shot from Ontario, I might have been inclined to try the just a little tap on the yellow on the high side, bump it back to the back four and leave yourself sitting two. But now that red's in there, that becomes significantly tougher. Still
Certainly,
there.
and this is the side you have to cover. You might look at this and say, well, you know, an out-turn draw might be there and glancing off that red into the button. That might be there, but this is the shot to protect.
That's right. You know, you can't guard everything, and that's the classic in curling, is you look at and you try and take away the easiest one if you can't take away all of them. And so often, as it is with play around the center, you can't take away all of them. So
We've been here before, Denver, and if it's you or I in the hack right now, we're wishing we had two rocks to throw.
that's certainly the
They
case.
only give us one, so
Yeah.
you got to pick the shot that's going to give you the best chance at the win, and this guard's the right call.
Don't want to put it too deep here. Likely, if this is made to sort of tight guard here, we may see either the run or the draw on the outturn side, but we have to see where this ends up here, as it's the final shot for Peggy DeRoses from Yukon here is in the 8th end.
The higher the better, I think.
Sweepers aren't touching this one, and this
We're
one's
not
got a
getting
curl.
the finish. It's going to leave the port for Ontario.
Comes up a little bit at the end, so it's not a gimme, but not quite the finish they were looking for there, unfortunately, for Yukon.
There is the fear of it coming too deep and tapping, but I'm a little surprised they weren't on it at the end, trying to close that gap as tight as they could.
Yeah,
that
and
port
it's
looks fairly open right now.
You can, and like we said, you don't need to get through there with a lot of weight, and you don't need to get through there with a lot of contact on the yellow. You just need to touch it. But it is a tight enough port that they're making them look at all the options here, and that is what you want a team to do. For UConn, it's sort of mission accomplished in that you're making your opponent think about the last shot, and it's not a gimme for the win. So, without a made shot here, we are going to an extra.
No, certainly you force a lot of thought into the other team and a lot of debate over what's the easiest shot for you to make, what gives you the best chance at the win, and a little bit of indecision puts a lot of pressure on. These aren't, this is a team that's been around, and certainly you can see they've got a good solid structure to them, and we can see there's experience here. This isn't Laurie's first time in the Hack facing this type of situation, but this is, there's a lot riding on this one shot.
Yeah, there certainly is, and it's, I think more so they're not, like you said, they've been going at this for a while here, so I don't think it's really out of nerves or anything like that at this point. I think it's more so just long enough time playing the game that you have the knowledge you want to consider every shot before you make it, as this one is for the win. It is made, and it looks like they're coming through and just trying to touch the yellow there. Bit of a tight port, but it's certainly there on the in-turn.
It's a draw to the button. That's all she's thinking right now, draw to the button.
That's right, T-line weight is good enough. Although the ice would lead me to believe that maybe she's throwing just a little more to be sure. Line looks close here, sweepers get on it.
Line is good.
Starts to move here.
About the line.
Yeah, really starting to move. Gotta be careful. As long as it's by. And it is. Now they gotta get it there.
Oh, and she did touch it. Is it enough?
They've touched it. They got through with, I think, basically just T-line weight, but we'll have to see if we're going to an extra here. This one may be a measure, I would say.
Boy, there was no room for error left there. This is going to be close.
I did say they just need to touch it, and just touch it they did, but is it enough?
There was a lot of finish on that rock coming in, and it almost went past it, but it might have tickled it just enough to get that place. We've got the laser out.
Yeah, we do. It's the lasers at this event. They're not using the sticks, so
all those fans at home in Ontario and Whitehorse are at the edge of their seats right now.
That's right. Yeah, this is a tight one, and we'll see how close they get as they bring the laser here. They're looking for the closest point of the rock to the pin. So the 2/3 gather around as well. There's some instructions there that you can see from the side, so if you own a laser yourself, you too can measure rocks as much as you'd like. Thing about the lasers too is you want to be sure you're consistent there, as they've got the umpire out, is in the middle of the pin, as to give a equal adjustment, as an equal measurement to both teams.
Which team's looking? He's pointed to the red.
We'll wait here as he pulls the yellow away.
And red hangs on, so we have extra hand action.
And here we go into a 9th. So a steal of 1 by UConn to pick it up, bring it to 6-6 after 8, and we're going one more.
Well, we didn't see this coming after 4 ends when it was 5-1, but there's 4 girls out there on the ice that I think felt pretty confident that they'd be in this position.
That's right, and they've got some experience, and they never lost sight of the end here, and we're going to an extra.
As in every sport, momentum is so much of it, and that second draw down in N7 to get the second point was a critical one to really take some momentum and really showed that they were in this game to the finish for Team Yukon. Team Ontario's been playing very well too, but Team Yukon just would not go away.
That's right, never say die, and they certainly didn't, as they've brought it effectively here, as we've got it 6-all after a full 8. So one more here, and of course at this level, it's all decided by an extra end. There's no more draws to the button, as some of you may be familiar with, draw to the button to determine the win, but at this level here, as at the national championship, it's an extra end. So
Team Ontario holding hammer in the extra end. They would have liked to close it out in end 8, but as it sits, when you go into an extra end, if you have the choice, you certainly want a hammer.
No question about it.
However, Team Yukon's proven that they can steal as well, so it's game on.
That's right. They just stole to get themselves into this extra end, so certainly they'll be looking to do it again. So the first one comes just tight to the rings here as the first shot from Inga Brown from Yukon.
And we look across in the men's draw, we see Team Alberta and Team New Brunswick going to an extra end at 3-all. And on the far sheet, we've got Team Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. It looks like that game has wrapped up with Team Nova Scotia winning 7-6.
Yeah, a lot of tight ones. And this one certainly got a lot tighter as we went on here after 2 ends. If you had tuned out then, you would have been pretty confident in Ontario there, but here we are in an extra, so goes to show you just about anything can happen in this game. As it is an extra end here, both teams will be allotted 3 extra minutes of thinking time.
And we're looking for a high guard again. This one's coming a little deeper.
There's a bit of a stagger on those 2 guards. They got one on each side of the center line.
With the free guard zone and the 5-rock rule, Team Yukon has the ability to throw 3 rocks before Ontario can start peeling, so they're taking advantage of that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's really affords a team a lot of opportunities, although you know, in an extra end, things are a little different. You don't need to worry about scoring many points. You just need 1 in there to make it count. And so Ontario here is the second stone from Nadine Simpson. Comes in here. It just comes just to the tee line there. It is open, but Yukon not really looking to hit here at the moment. They could play the hit and roll if they so chose, but looks like they're opting for the draw here.
That was a nice first rock by Inga Brown to put one in the control zone just outside of the rings on center line, and now they're taking advantage of that and trying to promote that into the 4-foot.
This one looks like it may be over curling here. And a little bit light as it.
It's not going to have the weight to.
Well,
it's going to
spoke too soon
there.
as it sneaks through the port and it ends up top 12. So I'll eat my words on that one.
No harm, no foul.
Well,
they're through the port and they leave the yellow exposed on the right-hand side.
But they've got a counter. Got one in the rings, and that just snuck through.
Yeah, that just snuck through. That was. We certainly expected Ontario to be throwing takeouts now.
Yeah, looking to reopen the center here. They had a couple struggles on that last end. They've been overall fairly consistent, but we'll see where this one goes here. As Samantha Fuller will right on the nose, so unfortunately for Ontario, they won't get to roll there. So
it's not the consistency they were looking for. They nosed 2 or 3 guards in the last end and the 8th end, and they start this end doing the same, leaving the guards in play, and that's not what they would be hoping for there. They were hoping to double off the 2 red guards.
That's right, and Yukon's has certainly brought their game up as well. I mean, you look at the scoreboard over the last half of the game compared to the first one. It's been almost all Yukon in the second half, so they look to maybe get a hit and roll underneath. This one looks like it might be hanging out a little bit, but it curls up
finish
actually
what they
fairly
started.
nicely.
A lot of nice finish there, but just not quite enough to get the roll.
No, but you know, it looked like it might hit out even farther, and it actually got a sliver inside. So shows you how much they're starting to, well, they have been all game, but really start to finish towards the center line once they've crossed that far hog.
No, you're right, Denver. They hit it just enough on the inside that it takes away the opportunity for Ontario to roll behind cover. So they've elected to try to roll away to the wings. And this one's
Smart
hanging
call.
out on them. They're trying to steer it now.
Directional sweeping a lot less effective since Broomgate, as it was known from a few years back there. The unbelievable amount of curl that players. You look at someone like Ben Hebert off of Kevin Cooey's team, and there's a clip out there where they get him on to start curl it, and he warps it so hard it goes out the other side. And so ever since then, the World Curling Federation had convened, and they produced a fabric here. You'll see it on all the brooms on the underside there. It's the yellow fabric, and all the teams here at any national event, as well as all of the other world events around, they're using a WCF approved fabric. So able to get a lot less directional curling out of those, because it was really taking a lot out of the game, that's for sure.
I think the ice makers had a say in that change in the rules as well.
No question. It was they almost do just about whatever they wanted with the ice, and they'd still curl it. So,
well, we're back in the same position now, where we've got Yukon with a rock in the 4-foot, guards out front,
and they've got one in the top 12.
And Ontario trying to peel their way to a win.
Certainly just a fantastic match to be here for. It's started out so strong for Ontario, but Yukon just bringing up their play so much in the latter half of this game here, and they are right in it, and right now they are in control of this end.
This has been a good game, and it's not about Ontario missing shots. It's Ontario's curled well. Had some bit of a misfortune here again. They're jamming the guard. They had that same situation in the 8th end, where they were attempting to double off 2 and ended up with a jam. That's, you know, very small differences in the shots that make a big difference in the game.
Absolutely. The positive there for Ontario is they were able to remove one of the red counters from play, but you can see enough of that there to tap that yellow out. You might be able to even get a bit of a roll under there. You can see almost the whole stone.
This isn't an easy shot neither. There is risk.
That's
but
right.
You can't afford to leave that rock where it is in such a nice controlled position.
No, they will absolutely play that next, and as long as this isn't super high, this looks really good. As this starts to curl here, as the sweepers get on it, as long as they get it by, and they do, and they roll under, and that's just a fantastic shot there by Yukon there.
Clausen. Nice shot by Laney, the Yukon third.
Yeah, really changes the look of the game there. That's a critical shot. So we take a look at the replay here. They got real close to the guard. They crossed a nose, and they actually rolled it under. So now it's completely buried. They've got 2 guards, 2 buried, and all of the stones that are in play are red. And
Ontario, once again, this is a familiar scene. Ontario trying to run 2 guards off with the one shot. We'll see if they can double off a couple guards on this one. Lisa Rolfe coming down with her shot, and it's hanging out on them again.
Last third stone here, and that one slides right by. So on this this side, it's the out turn going down this way, but we've seen a lot down that path that have just hung on that side of the sheet. They've had trouble with it both ways, but especially going that way, they've just not quite had the curl into center. Once you get out really outside of those 4-foot lines, it won't come back in for you if you've got above a control weight. And she didn't throw a pound at that either.
I think you're right, Denver. You know, they were throwing a little less weight on hits earlier, and now when you're trying to run 2 guards, you have to up the weight a little bit, and I don't think the Rocks are reacting the same. They're staying out with that little extra weight's making a big difference.
Yeah, you know, you're certainly inclined to throw the higher weight, which is fine, but you really got to tighten the broom there on those, especially on that out-turn side.
So the shot rock right now is biting the 4. Is that going to be enough to win? I think that's the question in Peggy's mind. Is she going to try and wrap this in for a little better chunk of the 4-foot, or is she going to put it in the top 8 and have it in that what we call the control position?
You know, I actually like top 8 here as Peggy throws her first in this extra end action here. But, you know, I don't like throwing it too deep because there is a bit of a risk if you ever come too deep and you give them a pocket. So I think it's certainly better to be light here if you're going to be a miss either way. So.
You know, in the 8th end, we saw Laurie come very close. Team Ontario was within a measure of the win. And it really came down to Laurie Shields' last rock, and she had T-line weight on that. It just overcurled a little bit on her.
That's
so we
right.
know she's got that draw weight, and we've doors open for her on this call.
Yeah, she threw it almost perfect through that tight port, and it just and you know, we thought as long as you touched it, but they just didn't quite touch it enough, and so. So Laurie Shields and her first stone here in this extra end. We're all tied up, of course. It's 6 apiece.
Guard is high enough. She's got lots of room to come around. I think Peggy would have liked to have that a lot closer and perhaps even in the house. Lots of room by the guard. This rock's going to have to make a big move to not be exposed.
It looks a little slick right now. Will it settle down? Not quite. How far can they get this here as it slides? And it's certainly not the shot stone as we have a look here to try and see whose second shot.
I would say it's Team Ontario's second, from what I can see.
That does appear to be the case. So,
can Peggy take away the 4-foot here? If this rock doesn't have to be in there, if it takes away the 4-foot,
it'll be a real tough one, and could leave Ontario with almost no shot. I like tight guard, even top 12 here is I think just about perfect. That would really help take away all the options here for Ontario, as Ontario will be looking at really just that
run double.
Yeah, that's if this is made, that's what they'll be looking at.
They might have to do the run back on the right side. But
Yep,
we'll see what she's left after Peggy DeRose's final rock.
She's had some fantastic draws this game. As Peggy DeRose, as she comes down, her final stone of the game. They're calling
and this
top
rock
12.
is out there.
It is. It may have been
not getting the line they want.
We'll see if it hooks back in as it starts to make a little move here, but I don't know if it'll be enough to block the port. It does start to curl up actually quite a bit at the end. Not quite enough. Weight-wise, she was pretty close there, but may have just pushed it out a little bit on the release.
You know, it's similar to the last end. Peggy's last rock was an in-turn draw as a guard, and that one stayed out a little bit, allowing a little bit of a port as well that wasn't made. But this time, again, there's a port there. There is an opening.
Yeah, and that may have been something on her release potentially from both ends, or if it is the same rock, it may just be something about it here as Laurie Shields looks to close out the game, needs to get about an inch of the 4-foot.
Game on the line. We know we're not going to another end. This is the game.
Sweeper's not touching it here. It's got to come off that guard.
The line looks good. It's a question of the weight now.
This looks a
By the
little
top.
warm.
Can they get it there? They're sweeping.
And they
it's
don't.
back.
And that is a win for Yukon as they steal 2 ends in a row to take the game 7-6. What a turnaround.
An amazing comeback by Team Yukon.
Fantastic
Scrapped
game
their
of
way
curling.
right back to an extra end and stole 8 and stole 9 for the victory.
So rink from Whitehorse here will improve to 1-1, and Ontario will go to 1-1 as well as we look forward to next match. That's tomorrow. That's Newfoundland versus Alberta, and that's the Susan Curtis and her rink from Newfoundland, and the Alberta rink, which is Manette. So thank you very much for watching.